There will be dark days ahead. Make no mistake about it. And every time we choose to engage in the gossip, the monotony, the boring, the mundane, heavy on the stimuli, whether it's drug use, weed use, alcohol use, sugar use, whatever it is, sex, whatever, is but a distraction. Now, I won't go as far as to say what should be important to you, but I'm about to use one of my favorite words. When I take a look at the landscape of modern times, it sometimes seems very trivial what a lot of people fixate on. Now, to be fair, I kind of always thought like this pretty much throughout my adult life that we care too much about trivial things, but especially now, you know, certain things can't even be a conversation for me right now, to be honest with you, you know, like people want to go back and forth about abortion, which I think is a pretty important topic. So it just goes to show how serious times are, where I'm like, even that conversation is like, I don't know. What I'm trying to say is that maybe I'm wrong, but it would seem that the world as we have known it is ending in a sense. I'm not saying we're just about to go extinct, maybe in 50 years or so. I don't know. I don't think so. But there is something wrong. And inflation is at an all-time high. And the currencies that were supposed to be used as a hedge against the currencies are down. Last year, the year before, the hedge against these inflated dollars were up. You saw record numbers for all of these altcoins over the past 2 years, if I'm not mistaken, but I'm pretty sure. Um, and now they're down. And so when I say something is wrong, I mean something is. I believe something is being manipulated. The inflation is the inflation. Perhaps it's being manipulated to be even worse. But the altcoins, even gold and silver, I'm pretty much willing to bet that that's being manipulated to look a lot lower than what it really is. Has to be, has to be. And so we're on the verge of a massive collapse. And you'll hear it pretty much because this is a perfect time to even say this. Because a lot of people won't relay a message until they hear the news say it. We are in a recession, maybe even a depression. And the news is going to say this later on in the year. My intuition told me that come fall, September, October, they're going to say it on the news. It will be officially deemed a recession, another Great Depression. Count on it. Count on it. And that's when things will go crazy. It's not that we aren't already in one, but once the media gets their hands on it and they're finally ready to pull a play, then you're going to see the domino effect. You're going to see a lot of people in a reactive state. Maybe even myself if I don't smarten up. You know, maybe I've run out of time. Maybe there's no avoiding it for me. And how could I avoid it anyway, even if I was properly prepared? Because my family, they won't be prepared. That's for sure. Um, so, you know, and as much as I want to have like more children, I sometimes think to myself, not to be discouraging or anything to anybody, but I really be thinking to myself like, people should really be reconsidering having kids. And I know that's kind of a fucked up thing to say with this whole Roe v. Wade thing, where the option of abortion is like harder to come by, and you know. But then the conversation it just comes to being more selective anyway. No matter my stance on where we are in 2022, juxtapose a stance on abortion anyway. I don't really want to make this about my stance on it. I don't really have one, to be honest. But my stance is always I have disdain for the government. I don't trust the government. So every time somebody has disdain for the government for whatever reason, we have something in common. But yeah, it almost seems like a bad decision. Even if you're financially able, it just seems like almost like a bad decision to bring a child into this world. You know, it's uh it's quite a deceptive war zone. It's quite deceptive. And it's not until really you get the intel one by one and you just kind of zoom into each aspect of why I would say this is a war, and it's kind of like confirmation, you know, inflammation, inflammation. I hope I haven't been saying that. I feel like I have. But inflation, taxation, um, of course, the child trafficking, the sex trafficking, you know, the police, dividing us left and right. Because if you want to, so that's why I say divide and conquer, because the forces will be weak if they're divided. So if you have people turn on each other, you make your job easier. Like if I were at war against somebody, if I were at war with someone, if I were able, if it were possible for me to make them turn on each other, or if I saw them turn on each other, I would get very excited. I get very motivated. I'd be licking my chops for real, because it makes the work that much easier. And that's why when people say, well, that's not why, but it just reminds me of that saying, with friends like these, who needs enemies? And so I actually find myself saying that sometimes too. It's like, fuck trying to fight the government when I got you doing the work for them. You right here, you doing the work for them. You're their henchman and you don't even know it. You ain't getting paid for it, nothing. Making my life easier. I'm making my life harder, you know. So this is something I really been reflecting on. It's like times are real, and we have to equip ourselves with, at the very least, mental fortitude when it comes to the willingness to live another day, when it comes to expecting the unexpected, when it comes to the possibility of the rug being pulled from underneath us, you know. And a lot of people see me as doom and gloom and as a pessimist and stuff like that, but it's like I said in a post that I wrote, that once you take your matrix glasses off, you can't put them back on ever again. And so maybe I'm foolish, I'll have that conversation. I hope that's the case actually, but I don't think that I am foolish. I think I'd be foolish to not lament this message, to not see it the way that I see it, even if it does me a huge disservice to see this. You know, I don't want to be the person to say I told you so when it comes to something like this. I want people on the opposite side to be able to say they told me so. All right. So it's not often a man wants to be wrong about something he has conviction about. This is one of those things. I would love to be wrong, but something's wrong. This is the calm before the storm, and it's dripping out more and more. And